I don't know. What did you hear? Oh, I don't know. Nope.
Damn it, there we went again. Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We got the paramilitary militia hashtags going on because there's a Senate Bill 3589 that came out January 16th, a month ago. And we're going to go over that. But before we get started, I want to reference the term paramilitary, which isn't technically really defined in law as of yet. So the Senate bill here that we're going to look at, we're going to do some research on it in terms of the paramilitary first. So we're going to take a look at Wikipedia. And of course, everybody hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. Feel free. And let's take a look at it. It says, a paramilitary is an organization whose structure, tactics, training, subculture, and often function are similar to those of a professional military, but which is not part of a country's official or legitimate armed forces. Okay? So right there in that first sentence, which is not part of a country's official or legitimate armed forces, is a reference to what I was saying, the militia. Militia is official and legitimate armed forces of the Americas under the Second Amendment. So when people get up in arms about this Senate bill about paramilitary and what they're doing, they're not talking about the people of the land. They're talking about people that are not of this country and that are setting up through immigration and somehow managing to set up paramilitary units on our land or on this land. Paramilitary units carry out duties that a country's military or police forces are unable or unwilling to handle. So, a country or police forces. The police force is a official paramilitary unit in America. It is an official or legitimate armed force according to the codes. The way they're using it, I call it a standing army, which is a violation of Congress, but we'll talk about that some other time. Other organizations may be considered paramilitaries by structure alone, despite being unarmed or lacking a combat role. So again, the primary thing here is that it's a unit that is not part of the country's official or legitimate armed forces. Though a paramilitary is, by definition, not a military, it is usually equivalent to a light infantry or special forces in terms of strength, firepower, and organizational structure. Paramilitaries use military equipment, such as long guns, armored personnel carriers, usual military surplus resources, skills such as battlefield medicine and bomb disposal, and tactics such as urban warfare and close quarters combat that are compatible with their purpose, often combining them with skills from other relevant fields such as law enforcement, Coast Guard, or search and rescue. They rarely use extensive military equipment such as artillery and armed military aircraft. So it's generally, looks by this description, generally land forces, army. In peacetime, paramilitaries are often assigned to protect high-profile sites, such as government facilities, infrastructures, airports, seaports, or borders. So you see, that's our security services and police forces. That would be a localized paramilitary unit. They may also be tasked with roles of VIP protection or counterterrorism. Depending on the organization the paramilitary operates under, they may also be reassigned until they are needed again. For example, members of a police tactical unit may be assigned to standard patrol duties until requested. So we have patrol units that are on standby to become police tactical units in situations such as protests. You know, those protests that they call peaceful protests that may turn violent. A paramilitary may fall under the command of a military, train alongside them, or have permission to use their resources despite not actually being part of them. So again, we have a paramilitary may fall under a command of a military. That's what the United States is. It's a military command. The president is commander-in-chief, and the police have to follow the laws of the United States in their organizations and stuff. So the police, as I said, are a paramilitary unit. In some instances, the paramilitaries may train members of an actual military in tactics they specialize in, such as arrest procedures. Legality. Under the law of war, under the law of war, one more time, under the law of war, a state may incorporate a paramilitary organization or armed agency, such as law enforcement agency or private volunteer militia. Into its combat armed forces. The other parties to a conflict have to be notified thereof. Some countries' constitutions prohibit paramilitary organizations outside government use. As I said earlier, official or legitimate armed forces. In most cases, there is no definition of paramilitary, and court decisions are responsible for defining that concept. So they're telling you exactly what I just told you. There's not really any definition of paramilitary. And like I said, it's policing. So what we have here, real quick before we get into this document, is the fact that they're showing you that currently in this country, though there are some militias out there, they are trying to put them down as if though they're not legitimate, when in fact they are. And what this country is trying to do by doing so is eliminate the militia so that they have no competition for their military units under a incorporated capacity. See, the militia is in fact private and not incorporated, whereas the armed forces and the police forces are incorporated. It's a capitalist system. They have to be organized under a corporate structure. So let's understand that first. So let's get into this document. It's not very long, so we're not going to be on here very long this morning. I will come back and do another video tonight, another stream tonight. But I wanted to do this one this morning on this because there are a lot of people that seem to be up in arms over this and claiming that they're going to come in and start, and they very may well, but the way it's worded, that's not the way it's structured. It's structured for this mass immigration that's coming in, and they're prepping for people that are coming in, they know that are not good people, and they are already committing all kinds of crimes and moving around the country without identifications and stuff. And so they're prepping for such incidences where these immigrants come in and set up mobile military units. And it's 118th Congress, second session, Senate 3589, to amend Title 18 United States Code to prohibit unauthorized private paramilitary activity and for other purposes. In the Senate of the United States, January 16, 2024, Mr. Markey introduced the following bill, which was read twice and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Committee on the Judiciary, and that is a judicial element, meaning they are incorporating it. It is a commercial activity in the House. The Senate legislates the laws. The House incorporates them. So if the House or the Senate sets up a bill, it has to go before the House to be incorporated. If the House sets up a bill, it's being set up in a corporate fashion already and has to go to the Senate to be legitimized. To amend Title 18 United States Code to prohibit unauthorized private military activity for other purposes, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Short title. This act may be cited as Preventing Private Military Activity Act of 2024. Prohibition of unauthorized private paramilitary activity. Part 1 of Title 18 United States Code is amended by adding at the end the following. Chapter 125, unauthorized private military activity, and they've got a set of definitions. Unauthorized private paramilitary activity, preemption, and civil remedies. So under the definitions, which is section 2741, 18 U.S. Code, section 2741, it says ammunition. The term ammunition has the meaning given in the term in section 921A. Armed forces. The term armed forces has the meaning given the term in section 101 of Title 10. That's the military. Armed forces. Dangerous weapons. The term dangerous weapon has the meaning given the term in section 930G. Explosive or incendiary device. The term explosive or incendiary device has the meaning given the term in section 232. So these are terms already made up and they're not revising anything. The term firearm has the meaning given the term in section 921A. Large capacity ammunition feeding device. The term large capacity ammunition feeding device, now we get a definition. A means a magazine, belt, drum, feed strip, or similar device that has a capacity of, or that can be readily restored or converted to accept more than 10 rounds of ammunition, and does not include an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating only with .22 caliber rimfire ammunition. So they're excluding .22 calibers. Anything else is going to be that has a large capacity ammunition feeding device has to be of something larger than a .22 caliber. National Guard. The term National Guard has the meaning given that term in section 101C of Title 10 and section 101 of Title 32. That's national. This is Armed Forces, Title 10. Title 32 is National Security. So under Title 10 and Title 32, they cannot violate the militia. Okay? The Senate bill cannot be used against a militia. It cannot be used against the nationals here on the land. It is somebody that is illegitimate and not corporately structured through the government. The term person means any individual, partnership, corporation, company, association, firm, society, organization, or governmental entity, whether incorporated or unincorporated. Private paramilitary organization means any group of 3 or more persons associating under a command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to function in public as a combat support, law enforcement, or security services unit. Functioning in public. To function in public. Okay. Regularly organized state militia. The term regularly organized state militia includes a defense force authorized under section 109C of Title 32. The state, or the term state, means the state of the United States, the District of Columbia, and any Commonwealth, territory, or possession of the United States. So understand, this is a corporate law that is being used, and I don't know why my screen share was not there.
Yeah, I just come up to let you know you wasn't sharing.
Did it not show up at all?
It wasn't showing up on the panel.
Because I had it. Well, there it is. So maybe I just missed it or something. So anyway, what we're talking about here again is that United States. What is the United States? The United States is a corporate entity. And again, that's a capitalist system that is using a commercial system to regulate the people, when in fact, again, the structure of this government is the president of the United States, known as Commander-in-Chief, is a corporate structure that is guided by the militia, the actual military forces of the country, which is the people, and not a corporate structure of guiding those people in military forms. And greetings, Russ. How you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Well.
It's funny you talk about that, because I was reading in that DA form stuff about munitions and all of that. There's all that shit tied to that form.
Yep. Metaversal miscreant. Send me a link or something. If he's live, maybe we'll go check him out.
You know who that is, don't you?
Yeah, I know who he is, but I don't know where he's at on YouTube. Like I said, I don't follow everybody.
Yeah, me
I'm
either.
I'm not one of these miscreants that goes around subbing to all these people and just waiting for them to pop up so I can watch their life. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this document real quick. So yeah, if you've got that link, miscreant, go ahead and bring that over for me. So unauthorized private paramilitary activity. See the distinction there? See, if it's government or legitimate, it's got to be public. You can't do things in private. When it comes to this paramilitary stuff, you've got to give people notice. Like I said, you got to give people notice. That's Article 139 of the Libra Code. You have to give them notice. And it's a specific reason is the distinction between public and private. You cannot act in a military capacity in private. Anytime you make a military affront, it's got to be out in open view, folks. That's the distinction. You cannot do this stuff privately. That's one of the things about the Second Amendment in doing those audits, when people walk around with their weapons on them and people get all stupid about it. They're actually abiding by the law. Concealed carry is not what you want, folks. I am much more comfortable knowing that my neighbors are armed so that some stupid thief ain't going to run up on me with a knife. Some stupid thief ain't going to run up and try to break into my windows. Some stupid thief ain't going to run up and try to break into anybody's house, because everybody's watching out for each other and everybody knows it. It's publicly announced. Stay out of this neighborhood, you dumb criminals. We're all armed. That's the way it should be. Then you don't need that standing army. Then you don't need that paramilitary. When the militia operates like it's supposed to, it takes care of foreign and domestic enemies. Offense. It shall be unlawful to knowingly, in a circumstance described in subsection B, while acting as part of or on behalf of a private paramilitary organization and armed with a firearm, explosive, or incendiary device, or other dangerous weapon, publicly patrol, drill, or engage in techniques capable of causing bodily injury or death. So when we're talking about this private paramilitary activity in the Second Amendment, we have to understand that by legislating concealed weapon and licensing, that is already a violation of the Second Amendment. interfere with, interrupt, or attempt to interfere with or interrupt government operations or a government proceeding. Did you know your communities are government operations, folks? You're not supposed to be interfering with them. You're supposed to be complying so things will go smoothly. If you find something in the community that you do not agree with, you do not get up in arms about it. What you do is you negotiate it to create better terms, not just for yourself, but for everybody. Interfere with or intimidate another person in that person's exercise of any right under the Constitution of the United States, including the Second Amendment. Assume the functions of a law enforcement officer, peace officer, or public official, whether or not acting under color of law, and thereby assert authority or purport to assert authority over another person without the consent of that person. Again, we have to make the distinction between this and a civil arrest, a citizen's arrest. You do have that right as part of the public, but not as a part of a private association, not in your privacy. You have to do this stuff publicly. That's the only difference. You have to let it be known. Trained to engage in any activity described in paragraphs 1 through 4. That there, how are you going to be part of the militia if you don't train? So again, what they're saying is you can't do it privately. You have to let people know you are developing a paramilitary organization in compliance with the government. In other words, a militia. A strong nation has a strong militia, not a hidden one. Not one hiding in the private, in the shadows or something. It's a militia that walks boldly around, letting people know. Circumstances described in this subsection are that the conduct described in subsection A. Conduct involves travel across a state line or a national border, or the use of channels, facilities, or instrumentalities of interstate or foreign commerce. That's Title 15. Title 15 is interstate or foreign commerce. So again, we're talking about somebody that is not domestic, but foreign. Involves a firearm, explosive or incendiary device, or dangerous weapon that has traveled in interstate foreign commerce. Involves the use of ammunition or a large capacity ammunition feeding device that has traveled in interstate or foreign commerce. Obstructs, delays, or affects interstate or foreign commerce, or occurs wholly within any commonwealth, territory, or possession of the United States. Exceptions. Subsection A shall not apply to the armed forces of the United States, the National Guard, the Naval Militia, or any regularly organized state militia, or any unorganized or reserve militia called into service by the state or the United States. So again, all you got to do is announce that you're going to form a militia group in this area. It's going to consist of these members. We're going to be using this facility to do our training, and we are in compliance with the United States. We are one of the protectors in agreement with the military forces. A group of individuals who associate as a military organization solely for purposes of historical reenactment or study, or a parade in public as a part of a bona fide veterans organization with no intent to engage in the activities prohibited by Section A. Students in an educational institution authorized by the federal government or a state to teach military science, those tactics, as prescribed part of the course of instruction when under the supervision of a military instructor, or members of an organization that is authorized under federal or state law to provide paramilitary, law enforcement, or security services training to engage in paramilitary activity, law enforcement, or security services when performing the functions authorized by law, and in the case of paramilitary activity and law enforcement functions, when under the direction and control of a governmental authority. What is the greatest governmental authority? Is it the United States or the people? Penalty. Any person who violates subsection A shall be fined under this title, imprisoned for not more than 1 year or both, except that in the case of a violation that does not result in bodily injury and is committed by a person who has not, prior to the commission of the violation, been convicted of violating a federal or state law, the person may be sentenced to probation for a term of not more than 1 year. In the case of a violation that occurs after a prior conviction under this section has become final, the person shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. In the case of a violation that results in damage to property, that person shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. And in the case of a violation that results in bodily injury, the person shall be fined under this title, imprisoned for not more than 5 years or both. Death, the person shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life. Forfeiture. In general, any person who violates this subsection shall forfeit to the United States, a corporate entity, any property, personal or real, involved in, used, or intended to be used in any manner or part to commit or to facilitate the commission of the violation, or that constitutes or is derived from proceeds traceable to the violation. Procedures. Section 413 of the Controlled Substance Act 21, U.S.C. 853, with the exception of subsection A and D, shall apply to the criminal forfeiture of property pursuant to this subsection. That's Article 5 of the Bill of Rights. They cannot take your property without military necessity, and it must be compensated. Unless you got that property illegitimately, they can take it right back from you in a trial and not of necessity, but still not pay you, and then still auction that property off and use that money. It's all theirs. You own nothing. Rule of construction. Nothing in this section shall be construed to preclude a violation of subsection A being committed by a person acting separately from the other members of the private paramilitary organization, provided that the violation is committed in furtherance of or in coordination with the actions of the other members. So they're saying, despite the fact that you're not with your paramilitary group, even if you act individually, if there's evidence that trace you back to a paramilitary group, they will prosecute you as such. Even if it was just a quarrel with your neighbor and you used an implement as a weapon, one of those weapons against your neighbor, they can now classify it as a paramilitary activity. Preemption. Nothing in this chapter. I guess I better go over the rule of construction. Oh, I already did that. Okay. Preemption. Nothing in this chapter shall be construed as indicating an intent on the part of Congress to occupy the field in which any provisions of the chapter operate, to the exclusion of state or local laws on the same subject matter. Nor shall any provision of this chapter be construed to invalidate any provision of state law, unless the provision of state law is inconsistent with any of the purposes of this chapter. Civil remedies. Public right of action. Whenever the Attorney General has reasonable cause to believe that any person or group or persons has engaged in or is about to engage in any activity prohibited by Section 2742, the Attorney General may bring a civil action for preventive relief. A civil action, not a criminal, okay? Including an application for a permanent or temporary injunction, restraining order, or other order in an appropriate district court of the United States. Public right of action versus private right of action. Any person injured as a result of any violation of Section 2742 may bring a civil action individually or jointly with other aggrieved persons in an appropriate district court of the United States for preventive relief, including an application for a permanent or temporary injunction, restraining order, or other order, or for damages incurred as a result of any violation of Section 2742, including reasonable attorney fees and costs. So you see, no matter what, they're keeping it civil and not criminal. The United States cannot proclaim criminal activities against anybody. That's why the second rule of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure says there's one action, the civil action. Forfeiture. Any property subject to forfeiture pursuant to Section 2742 may be forfeited to the United States in a civil case in accordance with the procedures set forth in Chapter 46. Clerical amendment. The table of chapters for Part I of the Title 18 in United States Code is amended by adding at the end the following. 125, unauthorized private paramilitary activity, 2741. And there you have it, folks. And we have Nubs with us. How you doing, Nubs?
What's up, brother?
Greetings, Nubs.
What's up, Russ? You know, I was listening to you and I couldn't help but hearing all those commerce words.
Yeah, it's all about the commercial activity. Like I said, it's civil. They're not mentioning criminal. They didn't mention criminal, did they?
And how would that work? Because in a civil matter, if they are going against a man and they are an organization, men cannot interact with organizations and vice versa, right? So if you set up your affairs as a man, does any of that apply?
Well, you got to remember, again, the basic premise I'm trying to point out here, guys, is if the United States is a corporate entity and they take their lead from the people, then who are they to regulate the people in a militia form, whether they're doing it in a private building or not? The military itself, in order to propagate all of that financial paperwork, that commercial paper, that fiat paper, has to have, again, like I said, a strong people to back them up and support them, because that's where they get their power. So if the United States is trying to regulate paramilitary organizations, we have to understand they cannot impose that against the people of the nation. And that's why I pointed out at the very end there, you know, if you go kill your neighbor with a gun and it happens to fall in that line of those weapons, they may charge you with this crime, a paramilitary crime. They find a flak jacket in your house with that gun. Oh, that's military. We better charge him under the paramilitary form. See what I'm saying? It's
Sounds
ridiculous.
like they're scared of something. or something like that. I wonder why.
Well, absolutely. That's because we got this. That's because there's this dumb guy in office that's letting all these people come across the border without vetting them properly. Now, granted, I still don't disagree with just letting him across the border because it's his land. So who again are you to tell his people where he can go with his people? So the passport and immigration, everything, I still don't understand it fully. I do understand the concept as it relates to a commercial system, but that commercial system is the Babel. It is the downfall of man. It is it is the main test that we encompass in our lives.
Right. I agree with what you're saying. As far as vetting people, I think that would really fall under the people. I mean, if you see something that's going on that is against what he says, then we have a responsibility, if we're his children, to do something to stop one child from acting out against another. Like that's just our duty as men. If you see an accident, don't run from it, run to it to make sure that you can assist to the best of your abilities. I don't know. It seems very, very corporate-esque in the whole wording and everything. Like, studying this stuff, I'm really starting to see what words are being used in what context and why they're specifically being used in those contexts, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's why I say everything. This whole language we have, like we did the video the other day on discharge, it has its own meaning according to what venue you're in. And so when we realize that, we have to understand that when they're playing these word games with us, again, like Isaiah 54:17 says, no tongue shall prosper against you, and you shall rise up against anybody who would condemn or place judgment and condemn them. That's the only way you're going to be able to do that is by knowing those languages. Right. The only way.
Right. That's where it comes in, be in the world, but not of it.
Yep.
Well, I think the ultimate goal would be to create some sort of security within that record that doesn't make it so complicated, because I believe it to not really be complicated once you figure out that all the authority is in the paperwork, and whether that's of good works or not. Now we come in and decide what the enforcement is based upon the commentary on the paperwork and who came equitable and who did not.
Exactly.
This doesn't really relate, but it does kind of relate. I want to show you something that I saw. Because words have power, and in the right venue, they have power to generate in that venue. But look at this. All right, so it's just a simple bottle of deodorant, right? But do you see that right there?
But it's Tom's deodorant, and that's that's a little rabbit. Are they using rabbit oil?
No. Let me read what that is. Not tested on animals. Well,
oh, wait a minute. I got where you're going. I get where you're going. Not tested on animals. Wait a minute. 7 U.S.C. 136. Animal includes man.
Yep.
Lying bastard.
Yep.
I just was talking to a guy looking for internet service, right? So I'm talking to this guy and I ask him, well, what are the options? And he says, well, ground-based, blah, blah, blah. And he got to the satellite. And he told me that it interacts with the satellites. And I was like, you're a goddamn liar. And you're a liar too. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, so you're telling me that my little system has the same capabilities of every international military system, and can shoot a signal and track a satellite with the technology that's available on that particular unit. Yeah, it goes to space. And then I was like, no, where is the fucking tower, the satellite tower that this thing is going to, so that they can add an extra step and go from one side to the other?
Exactly.
And he wouldn't answer. I was like, dude, you're not going to make a sale with me. Just be straight up. Don't lie to me, or don't lie to yourself. And then he's like, well, there is ground base. And I was like, exactly. Where is that located in relation to my house? And he's like, well, why are you asking me this? I was like, because I'm looking to make sure that I have a quality signal so that I can utilize the technology to do what I need to do. And that's learn more about the way this place exists. He didn't like that answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
This is
There again, false
across.
advertisement.
They don't
Yep.
point straight up.
Not at all. Greetings, King L Bay. How you doing today, brother?
Pretty good, Keith. I was just watching I just finished your other video from yesterday. What was that video? I was just watching it. You went over the terms and definitions, and you went into the post office about the
Oh yeah, the reviewing the real post office.
Right. So the more that I look at the correlation of events and I talk about effective communication, and they have this thing called the doctrine of property and pledges. And it says that the territory do not get jurisdiction. You have to pledge personal property to the territory. Like, they don't just automatically. They have a limited jurisdiction. And based on the limitation, when you read into this, they don't just automatically. And so it's 365 million people here. If they had to fulfill every requisite, they would never get nothing done. So they created the presumption, because if you don't know your rights, they don't know your rights, what your rights are. So they're going to automatically push you over with everything else.
Right, and I think I think today it's modern time. I think they call it doctrine of merger.
Okay,
and that's that nationality that they confer to you upon birth that creates that merger in documentation, so that they can keep track of people that are domestic. And it's just that it's been converted over time to the commercial purposes and intents, and now you have a passport, which effectively locks you into the country, rather than giving you a document where you can travel around the world upon your invites and visas and then go back to your home country. That's what that documentation is supposed to be for, is so that they can see that there's a merger that was created at the beginning, and that country is the source of where you came from. So they must let you back in. That's the reason for that merger in the documentation, is so that not necessarily so they can track you, but so that when they're letting people into the country, they know which ones actually belong in that country. And again, it's all for commercial purposes.
Mr. L. Bay, I will say one of the things that I've recently done is I've requested from the DHS to my status as far as what am I considered by them, because it's their paperwork that will then say, well, you're not a citizen here. So it legitimizes, to my understanding, what it'll do is it'll legitimize within their own documents that they have no claim to me. Well, or it's one of the steps.
Well, this is what I learned, right? When I was reading case law and about religion. One of the things that the court require is a person take sincerity. The only way you can have sincerity is you make a pledge. A pledge is one of the things that can be utilized to verify your status and relationship, because you got to remember, all of this is about a relationship to person, places, and things. It's your relationship to the person, place, or thing, and it's the contractual obligation that you put yourself under. So
Yep.
the data elements is the is the content, it's the substance.
And
So
I'm gonna break in here real quick because you're spot on. And these guys in this other video are right on that. Look what they're pulling up, King El Bay. They're pulling up the coat of arms. That's how you express. That's the original expression, folks. So let's go take a look at this. This is what Miscreant was talking about earlier.
Hey, Wizard, real
okay,
quick before
gold.
you play that, are you saying that I'd be able to? I guess I would be able to use my coat of arms to identify and then trademark that over a trust, wouldn't I?
Right. What do you think the right to bear arms is? It's the right to bear your armorial bearings.
Right, right, and that makes way more sense than holding an asset.
Right.
And destroy all works of magic. It also associated with excellence and achievement. Oh, geez. No, that's not what I wanted. Go up a little bit. No, go down. No, down again. Just hang on. Oh,
By
here.
bearing those memorial armaments, wouldn't that then tell any visiting agency or foreign entity the rules?
Just let me read a little bit here.
If you do it right and express it correctly,
go back up to the top again.
That would be powerful.
Even more, a little bit. Oh yeah, just a minute here. Okay, no, I don't think it's here. I have another block of information farther down in.
You know, what I find really fascinating about this particular, I've never really understood how that works, but I suddenly grasp it. And my family name in its original language means something to the effect of the heir or the inheritance of, because we were family of royalty. We were not royal ourselves, but we were family of them. And like I didn't do it, but I've read my genealogy all the way back to the 8th century.
Yeah, I don't know anything about genealogy, and I don't really care because I know, in effect, we all came from the same source.
Right, right.
And by trying to claim some kind of genealogy, that's just part of the popularity contest. So
I understand where you would get that. I'm saying as an understanding for myself, like it legitimizes it to me more than anybody else. Like, I don't know. Go ahead. Never mind.
Legacy is more important than heir, I think.
Well, yeah, you have to have the story. The story is the legacy, and that comes from the man. The stories of our forefathers, not our foremothers, our forefathers. And then it's the mother that is entrusted as a trustee for the 9 months, and she is the next of kin, not the dad.
Does genealogy have to do with the mom? Maybe I'm misconstruing that
Absolutely.
definition.
Absolutely.
Okay. My family heritage, my last name that comes from the man goes back to those people. My mom's a whole different story. Like, family goes back to Germany with the Dutch that came over, the Swarty Dutch.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off.
Fast. Those things are like, she comes from the royal house. My mother was royalty, and you'll see her
perfect timing
heraldry coming up just after this page here, and it's red with an emir, and it looks like it's a fur, right? But these are all heraldic symbols that are of royalty. You'll see that's royalty, right? You're looking at royalty there. So let's quickly skim through this because I want to get down to the words because you can't read this anyways. It's so small.
And you'll notice
This is Baker. This
on that document, when you go back and rewind on this video, you can see that document had a capital letter up at the top left-hand corner before it started everything else. See how it's got the capital letter there? That's how English. There aren't any other capital letters in the original form of English. It was all lowercase. And the first letter on the page was the capital letter, and it was capitalized in a style of the one that was making the armorial bearing. It was an artist. It was the artwork of the one making the document.
So would that be then his seal or stamp?
Say what?
Wouldn't that be then his seal and or stamp?
No, it would be the capital letter of the beginning of the page. His heraldry would be his seal or stamp.
Okay, I noticed. Was that I couldn't see necessarily? Was that an apostille on that one document?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't catch it.
So keep scrolling down. Actually, let's get right out of this. Let's scroll right through till we get to the next section. Right here, I just want to stop here. This is on my ex-wife's, let's get back to that there. This is on my ex-wife's side. Her last name was Goodrich. And you see all the lions and you see the crosses. Those represent that fourfold cross again, right? The fourfold mystery of the cross. This is all representing the estate, right? And he has a whole bunch of lions on here, and it has a crest above the helmet that's looking left, not forward. It means gentle, but the house of names, they all made all the heraldry of the helmet looking left because they don't know who is royalty or not, so they just made them all gentle, right? But this guy here, the Goodriches, definitely came out of the house of Jacob or the house of Joseph. No, Judah, the house of Judah. Sorry, very Jewish, right? So keep on scrolling. We'll get down right to the next section. And then I'm going to talk to you about the words dexterity and the word generosity, right? We're going to show you, just want to show you, I've got a point here I'm making.
And you guys feel free to pause me anytime.
Part 1, cupbearer, Burrows, Butler, House of Butler, Asher, tribe of the Israelites.
Yeah. Okay, so now this is truthvids.net. This is another website I encourage everyone to go and visit. There he has many videos, and they're all, the videos is everyone, he calls the 100 proofs that the white people were of the Israelites, right? It's all about white people being Israelites, the British Israelite theory, right? The European Israelite theory, right? And so keep scrolling. You'll see that these are all the tribes of Israel. This is their heraldic symbols. And you can see there's Asher. That's the second row on the far right. You'll see the cup. That's where I come from. And then you'll see the tribe.
And notice this one right here. You see that on all kinds of police vehicles.
Yep.
That's the British. That's the British one, Zara.
My line was up there.
These
where my line comes from.
And these symbols all come from the tribe of the Abrahamic tribes, right? Everything that's the Russians, the Finlands, the Czechs, the Czechoslovakians.
Do you know the bearing of the 13 stars and all that? You know the importance of that? Did you know Jacob? Did you know Jacob had 12 sons and 1 daughter?
Yep.
Scroll through.
Yep, they're the chosen ones because they wrote the book.
So now we're getting to each individual, and they're going to give an explanation. And we don't need to look at all this so much. Just scroll through it because I want to get to the next section where we're going to talk about names. But these are all the different tribes. There's
And before they came up with all these armorial bearings, again, it goes to Jacob and his 12 sons, the 12 tribes, and the names that he named his sons. The names themselves have meaning, and in those meanings, when you put them in the correct order, it spells out a birthright, which is the origin of the armorial bearing. It's a display of where you came from and what your talents are in that lineage.
Their birthrights away. So some of the birthrights are taken away, and so those tribes are got to join up with the tribe of Judah. But all the rest, so that some of the those birthrights got given to Ephraim because they got a double portion, and to Asher because my portion is fat, right? So it's obviously fatter than others, right? So everybody gets a. And this one here, Naphtali, that's the deer. My nephew, his mother's is a Greenstein, which is Jewish, but they're the Azagnati Jew. But no, they're not Jews. They come from this Naphtali. They're from the tribe of Naphtali. That now I am pronouncing that wrong. I know I'm butchering.
I was just going to say he's pronouncing that terribly wrong. It's Naphtali.
Which is the blue deer head at the bottom, the big deer head that's gold. His wife is a Mackenzie, and he is a Greenstein or Greeley.
The Ashkenazis, they came from Gomer and not Shem, and Ashkenaz is not even Semitic. So
yeah, that's right. That's a bastardization of the truth. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, keep going.
I've said that for years.
Let's get down to the next section.
Yeah, and so it's important to remember the obfuscation that can happen through your communications and your interpretations of others' communications. That's why it's so important to know precisely what is being said and not to interpret the picture or the symbol. Everything we do today is symbolic. Even the letters and words, each letter is symbolic, each word is symbolic, each sentence symbolizes something, and it just goes on and on. It's all symbology.
Okay, so this is fleur-de-lis design. You can go online and you can find this, fleur-de-lis designs, heraldic symbols. You got to put that in exactly to get the thing, the information. So keep scrolling. Okay, so right here, I typed this out. Okay, so blue, this is under their explanation of the meaning of the colors in my heraldry, right? So blue.
Okay, so that's British replacement theology, and that's what I'm talking about. Is the things that we're doing are replacements, and when it comes to your lineage and everything, the way I've taken it from the research I've done on heraldry and coat of arms and stuff, is that when you design your coat of arms, it's for your talents. You're not supposed to specifically keep the same coat of arms. It's supposed to change because the coat of arms represents personality traits of those houses, their talents. But as we grow and we teach our children, they come up into new talents, and they're not going to have the same capacity as us, but they may have a greater capacity in a different talent. And so when you're designing your coat of arms for your heraldry, it's important to understand your own artistic talents and how to symbolize them for your expression, and not to just keep expressing something before as if though it's you. You have to be able to symbolize your interpretation of what came before and how you interpret it. That's what the coat of arms and heraldry is all about. It's not about just expressing the same talents that came from your greatest forefather, from Jacob through those 12 tribes, but actually your talents. This is the parable of the talents. Everybody's different. You might only have one talent. You might have 3. You might have 5. But no matter what, you're supposed to go out and share those talents so that others can develop those talents within themselves. And this is what brings everybody up. It's not a matter of keeping things as they always are, or trying to keep them as you want them, but to allow change to develop greater talents. So on that, I think we're done here for today. We're at the hour mark. I'm going to go ahead and go over and watch the rest of what Jesse's got going on over there. But in the meantime, anybody got anything else?
I don't at this point in time, but I think I'll follow you over there. Actually, I'll probably beat you there.
Well,
all right.
Much love, everybody. Many blessings.
Well,
Can you drop a link to that?
Don't say because it's supposed to snow tonight.
Well, the thing that I want to address is that once you understand, like, the language, like, I'm gonna tell you, you have to pick up the 3 books. And even, what do they call Buddhism? What kind of book, what book do they study out of? What is that book? Do you know, Keith?
The Gita?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pick up these. You can't just read the law and just read it. You have to have these 3 books. You have to have the Bible. So you got to read the New Testament, the Old Testament, and the Quran. You have to study these books together. It's paramount for you to understand what they're doing. If you're not studying just in that, because that's what I do. I cross-reference when I plug stuff into the Bible, to Torah, and all of that. Certain information come up. So even in the Quran, it talks about the debtor. It talks about the creditor. I'm looking at all of this language, and I'm like, So now I just don't read. I don't just say, okay, I'm gonna read the law. Now I'm gonna take what they got and I'm gonna cross-reference. I'm gonna study these books so that you can see.
Yeah, and that's what it takes is comparisons. You got to be able to compare things. And like I said with the video the other day where we did the discharge definition through the various different jurisdictions, you've got to be able to compare it to the different grammar styles and know that they're going to mean different things. It's a different interpretation. And this is why it's so important to understand the language so we can simplify it. What we're doing today is we keep coining new words and new phrases and stuff that aren't really defined, like we saw here today. Paramilitary isn't actually really defined much until this Senate bill.
I personally, as a closing note, is to build on King or Mr. El Bay. Those, in my understanding, there's a reason that those documents exist. They're scripture no matter what, because they're quote unquote inspired. Well, it goes back to the where it actually came from type situation. And if you really look into that, it all comes from the Americas because the land was different. But this was the region in which those situations from history came from. And that's why there's so many similarities, is they're all from one house.
Well, you got to remember, this is what we got to remember. It's only one human family that's broken up into categories. Like, and what I mean is, like, you have the different people who have the different houses that believe they have their same similar to beliefs, but they all derive from one source, and it just went about. So it's only evidence that when you go see things in different places that is familiar because it came from the same source, and they just broke it up, and then they took their own understanding and made it something for them. But it's all stimulating from the same source. But I just would like to say this: like, I was reading the Quran, and then I was reading the Torah. And it says, this coming straight out of the Quran, this Al-Barak section 283. And it says, if you are traveling and do not find anyone who can write down the debt for you, then the debtor can give property to the creditor as a security for his right until the debt is paid. If you trust one another, it is not necessary to write the debt down, call
Absolutely,
or give a promise. In such cases, the debt will be responsible of the debtor, which he must fulfill and be mindful of Allah regarding it by not denying it later. If he later denies it, then the person who was present at the time of the transaction must give evidence and may not hide it. If anyone should hide evidence, it indicates that his heart is sinful. Allah knows what you do. Nothing is hidden from him, and he will reward you for your actions.
Yep, and that's that languages will be different and they won't be able to understand each other. So it's not a matter of whether you're illiterate, but the fact that there's many languages and you might come across somebody that you can make a trade with, but you don't have a language to do so. So you trade the property. It's a pledge. It's the merger that we were speaking about. That's all it is. Merger by action. Actions speak louder than words. And with that, we're out. You guys know my regular. I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So may God bless you and have a good day.